The 49ers just flipped the script again. I'm going to tell you about it in this episode by breaking down 5 things that we learned and 1 thing that we have got to change. Hit subscribe if you're looking for daily 49ers content. Appreciate all of you guys in the comments letting me know what you guys think about the game. Very insightful, and I agree with the vast majority of you. Let's get to another question today, and the question today that I want to ask you is, what did you learn from this team yesterday? What developments did we get about this team yesterday? What were your big takeaways? Now that you've had some time to marinate on it, let me know what you guys think in the comments about what you're taking away after that game. Because for me, the first few weeks of the season tell you everything you need to know about the trajectory of a team. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. It was far from perfect yesterday as well as week 1. But what we did gain yesterday were some key insights I'm going to be talking about in today's episode, and I'm curious what the biggest takeaways for you were. Was it related to the quarterback room? Was it related to what Mac Jones can do for the 49ers? I saw a lot of people talking about that yesterday in the comments and that throughout social media today. Let me know what you guys think about that one. I appreciate all of your takes as always. But let's start with the first thing that we learned. The first thing that we learned about the 49ers is they made changes. There are adjustments from week 1 to week 2 that don't tell you necessarily how things are going to be forever, but they do tell you a lot about what's going on with this team. And you can see one of them on the screen right there. But very notable, says David Lombardi. Solid defensive development. Let's see here. Luke Gifford, 49ers starting third linebacker in week 1, only played on special teams versus the Saints. I talked about Luke Gifford in week 1. We talked about him during the offseason, how important he's going to be to special teams, a huge special teams ace for the 49ers, but also, and he looked good on special teams, by the way, for the 49ers against the Saints as well. But interestingly, they changed the way that they set up their defense. SF used a big nickel setup, so that's 3 safeties. Jair Brown in his place for 7 snaps, and Upton South's usage skyrocketed to 56 snaps. They played the nickel a lot, and at times even brought in Jair Brown as an additional, or as a special player in that position. What's really interesting for me is I thought Jair Brown played lights out yesterday. I thought he played very well. I felt like there's the Jair Brown I remember. There's the Tig Brown I was expecting to show up in 2024 that never really did. That's the guy we saw replace Hufanga and come in there looking pretty darn good for the majority of his opportunities. Chase Lucas also stepped in for 6 snaps. So that's the first development in terms of things that changed from week 1 to week 2. Another thing that changed from week 1 to week 2. Positional adaptability helping pull the 49ers through. In week 1, fullback Kyle Juszczyk played 15 snaps at tight end. In week 2, tight end Jake Tonjes played 13 snaps at fullback. So again, this is not a huge surprise. This has to do with injuries as well as it has to do with the way that the 49ers view the fullback and tight end positions. Kyle Shanahan's talked about it many times, how these guys are all trained to take each other's positions, both tight end and fullback. So Kyle Juszczyk is trained to go in a tight end situation. George Kittle and Luke Farrell, Jake Tonjes, these guys are trained, if needed, to go into the fullback role. So we know about that. That's not a surprise there. The third thing that we learned, rookie Alfred Collins' snap count grew from 9 in the opener to 24 in New Orleans. A big jump that's indicative of the 49ers rapidly growing trust in him. I would add, I'm not sure if I'd use the word rapidly, but I respect where David Lombardi's coming from there. I will say, when you think about who you're going up against, both in Seattle and New Orleans, teams that want to run the ball, they want to establish a heavy run game. It is very interesting. And I say that knowing full well how many snaps Spencer Rattler got to throw the football in both the first 2 weeks. I'm not trying to say that they're, dedicated solely to the run game, but they do want Alvin Kamara to be a key piece of that offense, and that includes running the ball, which he did fairly well. But it is interesting that they were willing to trust Alfred Collins against an opponent that so desperately wants to move the ball on the ground as well. So I thought that was really fascinating there. So those are key insights from David Lombardi. I thought he did a good job pointing those out. Number 2, the 49ers. We learned from them that the rookies can produce. What a schedule for them to learn and grow, by the way, before what we hope is a playoff run in big game territory down the stretch. Getting those rookies opportunities in this schedule could not be a better scenario. And 49ers, when you look at their pressures generated on the defensive line, remember the 49ers' first 5 draft picks were defensive players. They drafted primarily defensive players throughout the entirety of the 11 picks they had in the 2025 NFL draft. Nick Bosa had 6 pressures. Bryce Huff had 5 pressures. Rookie Mykel Williams had 3 pressures. Rookie Upton Stout had 2 pressures. Yetur Gross-Matos had 2 pressures. Jordan Elliott had 2 pressures. Rookie Alfred Collins had a pressure. These are rookie players that are contributing and impacting the game. Yes, it was the New Orleans Saints. I'm not trying to act like they're the best team in football and the 49ers just did something amazing. I'm just trying to say, in the NFL, there are no gimmies. There are no easy weeks. There are no, guarantees. And the 49ers defensive line, largely a very young defensive line, filled with rookies on that defensive line, who we went into the season believing the only way the 49ers can be successful on defense is if their rookies produce. Because they let go of a lot of players. They let go of Malik Collins. They let go of so many individual talents that they only replaced with rookies. So you needed rookies to produce, and we're seeing the rookies produce. So I'm very excited about that. The third thing that we learned is this offensive line is better than they're getting credit for. Straight up, they are better than they're getting credit for. Highest graded 49ers on offense against the Saints per PFF. Look how many guys on that list are offensive linemen. Trent Williams comes in first at 83.4. Jake Brendel, 80.2. Christian McCaffrey, 76.9. Colton McKivitz, 73.9. Ben Barch, 73.5. Dominic Pooney, 70.9. Ricky Pearsall, 66.8 overall PFF grades on offense. If you're seeing the same thing that David Lombardi saw and that I'm seeing, 5 of the 49ers' top 6 graded offensive players were linemen. That by itself is something that is pretty staggering, considering we're going into this game saying the offensive line needs to produce because Mac Jones is the backup quarterback and we need to give the guy time. Here's what David Lombardi had to say about it. That doesn't even include rookie Connor Colby, who didn't allow a single pressure, who came in for the injured Ben Barch. The offensive line had to step up in a big way since Brock Purdy's mobility was no longer behind them. They did. Best pass pro since 2022. If that doesn't get you excited, well, I was going to say I don't know what will, but then I'm like, yeah, I could think of about 100 other things about this football team that gets you excited, so I'm not going to say that phrase. But this offensive line produced, you guys. What about the times that they didn't produce? What about the sacks? Let's talk about that. The time that the ball was snapped to Mac Jones getting hit on each of the 3 sacks the 49ers allowed against the Saints, sack 1, 3.95-ish seconds. Sack 2, 4.65-ish seconds. Sack 3, 3.75-ish seconds. This is not an offensive line issue. Agreed. A good offensive line can be expected to protect in pass pro for 3 seconds. A good offensive line. And so when you have a quarterback holding onto the ball longer than 3 seconds, there you go. My wife's family, diehard Broncos fans, we watched Russell Wilson week after week for a couple years. Hold on to the ball and hold on to the ball and hold on to the ball. And when he got sacked, people were asking the question in the Denver area where I live, was it Russell Wilson's fault or was it this bad offensive line? When you hold the ball that long, it's your fault, quarterback. It's your fault. So that's really encouraging to me. Colton McKivitz has the 6th highest pass blocking grade among all tackles through 2 weeks. 81 pass blocking opportunities, 2 pressures allowed, 1 sack allowed, 98.1 pass blocking efficiency, 84.3 pass blocking grade. Colton McKivitz showed up to play this year. It was his contract year. The 49ers extended him, and he's continuing to show why that was a good move. But we haven't talked about Connor Colby yet. I don't know how I missed him yesterday. I should have included him after the game. That he should have been one of the players that just popped into my mind and didn't. But rookie Connor Colby entered the game, and you didn't even notice he was there anymore. You didn't. You really didn't. He was so solid. 19 true passing sets, had 0 sacks, 0 pressures, 0 hurries, and a 73.1 pass blocking grade. That was your rookie 7th-round draft pick, Connor Colby. The guy that when the 49ers drafted him, people were like, so it took you to the 7th round to put a little bit of a little bit of draft capital toward the offensive line. Seriously, after all we saw in the past. And fans are always going to be down on the offensive line, and I respect it. I get it. I mean, it's part of being a fan is being mad at the offensive line and wanting the offensive line to be perfect. I get it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like the 49ers, part of the reason they lost in the Super Bowl was because of the offensive line. You can point to individual moments where things went wrong. And they were key moments in the game that you look back and you say, you might have a ring if it weren't for that, right? So I understand it, and I'm not here to throw stones at anybody for criticizing the offensive line, but we will also give flowers when they do what they did against the Saints. Congratulations to that offensive line. When you look at the notable snap counts, by the way, Connor Colby had 61 snaps, 86% of the game he was on the field. Not bad for the rookie. Kendrick Bourne had 35 snaps. Marquise Siegel had 100% of the snaps available to him, which would be defense and special teams. Upton Stout, 56 snaps, out there 79% of the time. Mykel Williams, 48 snaps, a significant upgrade from last week, 68% of the snaps. So yes, these guys are playing. Rookies are involved and expected to be involved. Connor Colby, Marquise Siegel, Upton Stout, Mykel Williams. These guys are impact players this year, right now. That is something to be pumped about. But that's not the only thing that we learn. We also learn that Salah's defense continues to progress. Unbelievably so, by the way. Highest graded 49ers on defense against the Saints. Fred Warner at 95.1. A perfect game is 100. I mean, it's nearly impossible to get there. I'm not sure. I've never seen it be 100. But my word. Jair Brown, 93.5. That was the kind of performance we'd love to see from Jair Brown. And maybe Robert Saleh has unlocked something that Nick Sorensen and Steve Wilkes could not unlock in Jair Brown. Maybe that's it right there. Maybe that's the move. I like the thinking. I like the processing. I'm stoked about that. Bryce Huff, 90.4. Limited reps. I should have looked at the snap count. I just had it on the screen. Nick Bosa, 78.3. D. Winters, 74.3. The two of them, Fred Warner and D. Winters, my word, they were immense yesterday, were they not? 11 tackles, 1 pass breakup, 1 tackle for loss, 1 forced fumble, 95.1 PFF grade, and 93.4 coverage grade for Fred Warner, a linebacker. That is an unbelievable coverage statistic for a linebacker. And you get it out of your mic. You get it out of the best in the world, Fred Warner. This guy, by the way, there's a reason that I wanted to get the rival jersey for Fred Warner. D. Winters versus the Saints. 8 tackles, 21 yards allowed on 5 targets, 74.3 PFF grade, 90.2 coverage grade from your other linebacker, your linebacker too. That is pretty cool. I think I already talked about that. So I'll just move on from there. But Akash made a great point on it. Nick Wagner. It's probably a big statement, but it's definitely a big statement. But watching live and then quick rewatch this morning, 49ers linebacker Fred Warner might be playing the best football of his career right now. And that's saying something given the level he's played at previously. An absolute menace fully at home in Robert Saleh's D. David Lombardi. Deommodore Lenoir has been in coverage for 72 snaps through 2 games. He's given up 3 catches and 16 receiving yards. That's 0.2 yards given up per snap in coverage for Lenoir. Will be impossible to snub him from the Pro Bowl again if he continues to close to that rate. My word, that defense. Another thing that we learned, 5 things I said. This is the 5th thing right here. Special teams can be better. This was a welcome surprise not surprise. It was a welcome takeaway for me that the 49ers special teams unit can actually be decent. That felt really good. With 2 makes in his 49ers debut Sunday, kicker Eddie Pinheiro moved up from number 4 to number 3 on the all-time field goal accuracy list, passing Chris Boswell. So the cool thing about Pinheiro that we did not see from Jake Moody, and we haven't really seen since Robbie Gould, right, is he misses a point after, which, of course, I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you felt about it, but I know how I felt right after. I was like, you got to be kidding me. How could we possibly be in this situation again? But he goes and makes 2 really big field goals in that game, and he hits them straight down the middle. I mean, he looks like the type of guy that his head right now is screwed on tight. He's thinking, oh, okay, I'll make the adjustment. I'll hit it down the middle next time. And boom, right between the uprights, right down the middle, both of those field goals that I'm thinking of in the top of my head. So that's cool. I gave you 5 things that I think we learned about the 49ers that are really good. How the 49ers absolutely flipped the script. But there's one thing the 49ers have not flipped yet that they need to, and that's the injury situation. Here's the latest report from Kyle Shanahan per Jennifer Lee Chan. 49ers injuries. Kyle Juszczyk and Saron Neal will be in the concussion protocol this week. Said nice things and positive things about Kyle Juszczyk's situation, but concussion protocol is outside of the hands of the organization. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Ben Barch, high ankle and will be out for a while, quote unquote. Juwan Jennings has an ankle injury, will be evaluated more this week. Spencer Burford has a knee injury and will be evaluated this week. Not a good scenario when your backup left tackle has a knee injury sitting behind, your all-pro left tackle, who also has a knee injury, who played well, by the way. Give Trent Williams his flowers for coming out there. Basically, if you didn't hear the story, it's unbelievable. It's so cool. Trent Williams shows up not thinking he's going to play that morning, and he sees the 49ers fans, he sees the players out there, and he gets so hyped that he has to be out there. That's pretty cool. That's a cool story. And good on you, Trent Williams, for finding a way to get out there and producing at a high level. Because he did. He played much, much better. We are 6 days away from the Arizona Cardinals. The chance of Brock Purdy playing against the Cardinals is, I don't know. I'd say it's kind of a 40-60 scenario. I want to say 50-50, but based on Schefter's report yesterday, I'd say it's not feeling so good. But then based on Kyle Shanahan's report after the game saying that he's still a potential, I feel like, okay, maybe there's a chance. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously, when you look at what happened to Joe Burrow, similar kind of injury, technically speaking, and he's going to be out for 3 months. So you feel pretty good about your quarterback, Brock Purdy. And now with what we've seen out of Mac Jones and this Cardinals game not being a gimme of a game anyways, you can kind of look at the game and say, we got 2 on the road. You go home, and if Mac Jones has to start, if it's close, they give the nod to Mac Jones and say, I need you to hold down the fort 1 more week. And I think that you feel a little better about it than you would have had they not come out of that game producing nearly 300 yards through the air through Mac Jones, 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. You got to fumble. You got to give him. You got to call it what it is. But Mac Jones will improve. He'll feel better. He'll have the butterflies out of his stomach. He talked about losing, not having that nervousness once the first couple of drives were over, which is a good sign as well. So I feel really good about where the 49ers are at right now. And if Brock Purdy needs 1 more week, we can survive. We can survive 1 more week without him. Obviously, when you look at the Cardinals game, that's a game that has to be won by the defense anyways, because that offense can turn on at times. Yes, of course, our offense needs to produce too, and the Arizona Cardinals defense is supposed to be, the best thing since sliced bread now. We'll wait and see for all of that. There's a lot that has to get figured out there, but I'm feeling optimistic about the 49ers' chances, and if Brock Purdy's not ready to go, I don't feel as bad as I felt before with your Mac Jones going in there and taking over the helm for a little while. I'd much rather have Brock Purdy. I still feel confident in that, but we'll take what we can get. If Brock Purdy's kind of on the edge there, I'll be glad that we got to see some good production out of Mac Jones to make us feel a little better going to the game. Let me know what you think in the comments about your biggest takeaways. Let me know how you felt, what you felt we learned yesterday. I only picked 5 things. I could have gone on a much longer list, but those were the 5 strongest things that stuck out to me. Appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.